So, as you've been known, there's a lot of buzz under the radar about how Arjun Jaya is your successor, given that, captains, Arjun. What do you say to that?
No one's better than the original.
So, after the introduction, we have the captain of the junior team 2024 himself, Arjun Jaya. So, you want to say hi to the second audience you've had in the past week?
Hello, everyone.
All right. So, I first want to start off with perhaps something that most people are thinking about, which is what motivated you to start the podcast, like Ethan's podcast?
Okay, so for that one, it was like really impromptu because like me, Ethan, and then the other Ethan were just like planning to go to KYEP together. And then like in the car ride, we were thinking of like fun things to do. The podcast was like on the lower end of the list. There was some weirdest stuff that we thought of. I think the first thing was opening Pokemon cards in the car, but regardless of that. So yeah, then we thought of doing a podcast. Then in that car ride to like the jungle of KYUM, the jungle of KYUM, we decided on the topics. And then in the end, we thought it was going to be like a more like safe podcast because obviously like we are in MWS and all those things, so we couldn't say much stuff. But the things we ended up saying in the podcast were very concerning. So thankfully, Ethan bleeped out a lot of the important stuff. And I think there's still some suspicious stuff left inside. But thankfully, at the end, like it turned out somewhat okay.
Okay, yeah. I mean, it's quite a long podcast, so there's a lot of things to unpack there. So clearly you have a lot of opinions on the issue, right? Because the issue as in anything related within debate. So you are informed and clearly you have some sort of motivation to continue doing this. Otherwise, if it's just like a really small of your many side quests, then it isn't as important to you. So what motivated you to apply for the role of captain? And how did that go about?
So, well, I didn't know much about like the debate scene when I got into MWS, and like way before that, even joining my first open comms, I was like very new. Like everyone was foreign, and I was from like Pahang, so I just came there and suddenly see all these new debaters. So even when I got into MWS, I like barely knew the people there. I didn't know the people who joined WIRA, so our government debate competition. And like I thought the elections were gonna happen on a later date, but immediately after like orientation or something like that, like they had the elections for captain, and then I was like, oh damn, should I volunteer? Like should I not? And then like I think one of the other people, I think it was Neve, she just messaged me in the Zoom chat like, hi, I think you should be captain. I'm gonna volunteer you. It's like okay, we'll see how it goes. And I was like, very flustered going into it because I was not at my home. I was in my grandma's house, and it was like very bad setup. So I thought my personal statement was going to be really bad, and it was kind of meh. So I thought I was going to lose that election. Somehow got through. I don't know what the vote is. I think you guys would know, but I won't ask. And then yeah, that's how I ended up as dev team captain. Hopefully, it has been a good term so far.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't won a competition until September, and the first competition they won, you weren't there. So, yeah, it's okay. You did win your own competition that weekend, so that's cool. But the reason I bring this up is, as we all know, you do share more than one similarity to a previous icon within the team. Aside from name, there are other features. We'll not go into those for various reasons. But let's go straight to it. So what is your genuine opinion of the situation where people are talking about you being the next Arjun Gunalan?
Okay. So I'll be honest, I kind of leveraged that as well in my like MWS application. I remember like they asked to write a description of why you should enter MWS. And then my fourth reason was like I have the same name as Arjun Gunalan, and then like Arjun's together strong or something like that. It was very bad, but I did leverage it as well. I would like I didn't want to step into that shadow because Arjun Gunalan is obviously an amazing debater. And I thought like because I wasn't aiming for first speaker as well, so I thought that would differentiate myself. I didn't really like first speaker also when I started out in like MWS or when I got into MWS. So I thought, okay, if I get associated with Arjun Gunalan, I'm gonna get put as first, and that's not the best thing at the time.
Okay.
But then gradually, I was like, first speaker is not that bad. First speaker is actually quite good, and I like began to like it, especially after joining BP and stuff like that. But with the like Arjun Gunalan narrative, that one's a bit weird. I don't know how to fit into it, and I haven't really like controlled the flow of it. I've just been there, and yeah.
So it's interesting you bring that Arjun's together strong thing, because if you remember, even before you applied to join the team, you sent Arjun Gunalan a message on LinkedIn. I don't have it on hand, but once the video is edited, it will be here. So, what do you think of that?
If you do put up that message, I apologize for the language, not language, but like I was a different person back then. I don't want to watch that message again, but like I was doing that on behalf of my debate team back at the time because like we wanted debate tips and stuff like that. So I was like, who's someone I can message that would like maybe find some interest in this like random boy who wants debate tips. So the first person I messaged on LinkedIn, I don't know why I chose LinkedIn. I thought it was like professional. So like if I approach people on LinkedIn, they would probably reply to me they would think of it in a professional way. But the first person I messaged was, I think, Matthew Anzro from Team Canada.
Okay.
So, so it was a big step. And then I was like, I don't think he's ever gotten back to me. So that's that. And then the second one I messaged was Arjun Gunalan. I was just like, I didn't think he would respond also, but I just messaged him like out of the chance that he would respond. And he did. It was coinciding with, I think, MIWSDC, or one of the MWS hosted competitions. So he also did the Arjun thing of like promoting that competition and asking me to join that. And he did give some tips about selections and stuff like that. So that was immensely useful. Then I didn't end up joining MIWSDC. I wanted to, but then there were other stuff happening and I felt guilty about it. Actually, I didn't think much about it because I thought everyone would forget that I messaged Arjun Gunalan on LinkedIn randomly this one time because it was so random. But it's been brought up like 5 different times in my dev by the coaches. So it's not helping me.
Your digital footprint stays with you. So these things you can't just forget and move on, unfortunately. Okay. So let's unpack that a bit more. So you said one of the things that you don't really know how you want to fit into that narrative. Would you say that has given you more pressure or more motivation to do your thing?
I think it has given pressure. It started out by giving motivation. So I was like, okay, there's this Arjun who has more than one similar characteristics to me that we'll not mention. So okay, you know what? If I follow into that story, maybe I can like get some motivation to achieve that, or like get some push to achieve that. And then like as I was in MWS and the more I've been in the circuit, it transformed into expectations, which I don't think is inherently bad like right now. I think the expectations are wild, but it hasn't affected me that badly. So I think it's okay. And it's also fun to like see the dynamics play out within the debate scene. It will be bad if I end up losing something. So hopefully that doesn't happen. But for now, while it's all going good, the expectations are also are they nice? I guess they're funny. They're funny.
So on expectations, is there a specific expectation that people have? Is it that you're going to become the captain of the main team one day? Is it to go even further in the out rounds than Malaysia has ever done? What is that expectation precisely?
Yeah, I have heard some of them from like my friends in the circuit, and they're like, I don't want to mention that right now because if I do, it'll sound so it's insane. But I don't know. Like generally, I didn't think those expectations would form in that way. I thought like I always like employ the strategy of if you expect the worst, it will turn out better. Or like something like I don't know why this happens also, but every time I expect a loss in a debate tournament or I expect something bad to happen, or if I'm not good going into a debate tournament, it ends up being better than what I thought. And this happens like a lot of time, even with MWS or like my first ever debate com, which was TADO 2023. Um, I I didn't know how big it was. Then when I got to the tournament itself, this was when I was completely new, so I still showed up to debate tournaments in suits and ties. Terrible era, but yeah. And then like we thought we were not going to break, and then we ended up breaking like dead last. But it made me so happy because even with all the pro debaters there, like at least we got some good thing that we didn't expect it. And even with MWS sections, my hope was that I would get into like dev or something. Then I found out that was the age limit. I was like, okay, maybe just fun to debate and like get the experience. Then I did end up getting into the dev team and like captain of the dev team, which was completely out of my expectations. So yeah, I think my expectations are always way lower than what others think, I guess. But yeah.
Okay, so you've mentioned that you've surpassed your expectations for getting into the team and also what you've accomplished this year. So what do you think is the biggest accomplishment you've gotten this year?
Oh, Okay, the start of the year was kind of it had good momentum. We were getting like good breaks and stuff like that. But I remember I had a semis first. So like I dropped in semis for 3 tournaments. And one of them was pretty embarrassing. I think it was Utimara Natnov. And then it was like going into that tournament, everyone was like, oh, Ethan Lu won last year. Alicia got best OBS or something like that. So like everyone expected us to do well. But then that tournament we lost on the 3-2 split. In MIDC also, that was a pretty easy tournament, I would say. Or people thought of it as an easy tournament. And then we dropped in semis on a 3-2 split again, I think. So the start of the year, like it had really good breaks. I think I broke a lot where I didn't expect to break. And also joined a few tournaments and did well in a few international tournaments, which I didn't think I would do well in. But then I wasn't achieving much. And then like only in the past 3 months, for some reason, the like luck has been insane. We won KYAP, Osdo, and Ando. And all of those were on like close calls in the finals. Well, not really for the past two, but for KYAP, yes.
Nah, not for us though. I thought that was pretty clear. Even they thought it was pretty clear. So no, just kidding. There'll be context for that, but okay. So which one? You have to pick one.
Biggest debating achievement. Actually, for me personally, I don't think open speakers can relate much to this, but for me personally, it would be winning Wira because for my state and for my school, the only reason I'm in debate right now and why there's even a debate scene in Pahang is because of Wira or Dato. I forgot the full name. It's the longest ever debate competition name. And the time I joined last year, 2023, like Pahang never broke for I think 5 years, longer than that. And like the bare minimum expectation, the highest expectation our teachers and coaches placed on us was to just break in Wira. We surpassed that to get to grand finals and then lost on an annoying 5-4 split, but against amazing opponents. It was Ryan Fo, Kalpana, and Batsin on Team Sarawak as the main speakers. So then we came back in this year, and then this time the expectations were high, but we thought we were going to like do something embarrassing and lose in quarters or semis. And then we did lose the first prepared round on a close split, but embarrassingly as well. But then we just like submarine all the way to winning the tournament. And the way Wira works is like they glorify the finals and they have like all these nice stages and all that. So it was just a really good feeling to win that. Then going back to our home state of Pahang and seeing our coach happy because this is the first time Pahang won in 8 years and he coached the team 8 years ago to win. So I think that would be the biggest achievement.
Okay, that's good. So, if you do want to live up to that legacy, though, Wira is great, but that's not going to cut it, unfortunately. So, what do you think, other than Wira, has made you really proud that you feel like I am following in the footsteps of one of the greatest captains that Malaysia has produced?
Oh, um, the my best objective achievement has been like OBS in Oslo, which was thanks to you guys feeding me the case and all that. But the moment I got like the OBS announcement was made, I was like, huh, there was immense luck involved in that. But I thought, okay, maybe there's like some traction, some things I can use on my CV if people don't know the context and don't see the tabs. So that was that. And then generally, like the momentum in these past 3 months has been insane. Like I went from not getting past semifinals to winning finals. And I don't know, the feelings around me and the feelings of everyone around me has also like been insane. So as long as, and it hasn't been a slump that noticeably, so I'm thankful for that. I think that this period has been my greatest achievement, like these 3 months. Yeah, if that makes sense.
Okay, cool. So mostly you've been talking about schools tournaments thus far. But you do mention that you in fact have been competing in open tournaments, some with quite strong participant pools. And as you mentioned, a lot of debate accomplishments cannot be fully weighed in isolation. So for example, some tournament that might have been prestigious 3 years ago is not as prestigious in this year's edition because the general competitiveness of the pool has gone down. But in particular, some of the tournaments that you have been to are actually still quite strong and may even have some of the world's best speakers in them. And you have gone toe to toe with some of those best speakers. And this is not, I'm filling in. I'm talking about the world's best speaker. And because of that, I want to take a look at one of these cases and you will share your thoughts on how you perform against those speakers. So let's take a look in this particular debate where you're going against the world's best speaker and you broke open. I think on 9, so you have straights +1. For those who are watching, straights is when you get consecutive seconds in a tournament. How many points does that take? So in a 4-round tournament, that would be you getting 8 points. And straights +1 is you get 8 out of 12 points +1. So you get 9 out of 12 points. So in most cases, that should guarantee you breaking at that tournament. So here, let's take a look at a small snippet of the speech and how that goes.
Metric that we use, the metric we get from government of harming resistance and harming decolonization is way too general for it to be an actual metric that we use to apply to a large sentencing thing, right? Like you are applying the sentencing of war criminal punishment. I think that requires a certain degree of specificity and in recognition of the severity of the crimes caused by the individuals. I think what you get on the other side is dilution of those things. A few points of setup. Firstly, we support things like state acknowledgement of ownership and ownership of the blame of these things. So the colonial state will have to acknowledge these things and like either act in ways by giving reparations or like anti-colonial state laws by like undoing all the bad things they've done. I think the example of this was Germany actively like using anti-Nazi systems to erode the trust in the Nazi regime and recognizing that they did harm through their colonial systems. I think a lot of states do this already. We're also okay with normal trying, right? As normal criminals in accordance with the normal laws that are in the state. So if a person did commit the direct harms that they give to us on government side, then they would be tried in the normal way and their violence would be punished. Therefore, I think we mitigate a large part of the things that come from government side. We also, what is the comparative on our side? I think we support alternative ways to call out bad views from scholars, right? We support activists speaking out. We support other academicians debunking those theories. And we think those alternatives are way better than the alternatives we get, which is just labeling them as war criminals. Because look at their own rhetoric. They say that they want to restore trust in intellectual institutions and intellectual domains, right? But I think the way you do that on their side, the moment you label one academic.
So this is important because obviously in that debate, the specific approach you take to those intellectuals is what ends up deciding things. And obviously in the DPM speech, those alternatives get destroyed within the first minute, which is obviously I'm not asking you to, survive against the world's best speaker. But at the same time, what do you feel about that speech, that round? Do you remember anything from it? What was your mindset going into that?
Okay, actually, I did forget about emo and UTM API. I was like only fixating on Austo, Endo, and QAP. But yeah, emo was insane. Also, I remember the feeling that me and Megan, my teammate, going into emo had. We looked at the tabs, saw Tejas, and saw all these speakers, Sydney KS, and we were like, okay, this is going to be a really big tournament. I think at that time we still had novice status, so I just like, okay, let's break novice and hope we get something good there. And then when we got into the like rooms with Tejas and with these other speakers, we were so concerned and worried at the start before the round started. But I think the feeling I had going like after giving my speech and when the round like ended was like, okay, this was doable. Okay, I mean, we're probably going to lose to Tejas anyway, but it was at least, definitely, but it was at least like a taste of something more, something nice. Especially, I think before that, we joined a few novice spars and tournaments. So like we were brain rotted in debate terms. But then immediately going into that round, it was such fun debating because the motions were good, in my opinion, at least for EMO. And when we debated those motions against those people, especially in BP format, it was so fun to think of the strategies that each team was using. And then after my speech, I was first speaker whenever I go with Megan, so I'll just like sit back and then analyze and then like have fun watching they just destroy us or doing all the things that they do. So yeah, my speech particularly for that round though, I think with BP I always focus more on matter and just dumping stuff. And I was pretty happy with the level of matter I put out and the level of framing I did in that speech. But I think after that tournament, I started focusing more on developing style, not style, but getting a more like well-rounded speech. Because I thought after that okay, my matter is good enough to at least get there. I should also be a bit more well-rounded to at least have the same presentation skills, I guess, as these other speakers who were like just much better. Like I think their speeches were much more enjoyable than mine. So I was trying to emulate something like that after EMO.
Okay. So in general, you would say it's a positive experience.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so I know this, but for the benefit of the audience, how many years left do you have in the team if you could try out? Like how many years left you have in the school system before you either reach the age limit or you just graduate?
So I think the age limit is 19 or is it 20? 20, right? I saw the
So it is, you must not be the age of 20 by the first day of WSTC.
Oh, okay. So I'm a bit lucky in that sense because my birthday is in December. So I think I turned 17 in December this year. I either have 3 years or 2 years. I can't do or maybe 4. I can't work out the maths, but it's 3, I think on average, or 2.
Okay. Most debaters can't do maths. That won't put you at a disadvantage. I mean, your likeness did not do higher level maths for his IB, something a lot of people clown him for, which I will also out on this podcast right now. Okay, so you say by the end of this year, you'll be 17. So you technically can be 18, 19, 20. So technically you have 3 years more. But will you be in Malaysian education for all of those 3 years up to 2027?
The plan now is to be in the Malaysian education system. I think no matter what my SPM results are, I'll probably go for A-levels. And I think A-levels is still under the school's stuff, right? So, so yeah, I would be in, I don't think I'll go anywhere other than A-levels. Yeah.
So if you were to start university, is that in 2027 or 2028?
Okay, Arjuns do really have bad math skills, but I think that's 2020, now 2024. 2025 is next year. I'll finish SPM next year. And then 2 years of it. So 2027 or the end of 2027.
Okay, so you technically can make it into the team 3 for the next 3 years in the event that you still have a passion for debate, which if you do want to be Arjun Gunalan, you kind of do have to, because he has one of the longest runs in recent history. So he made it into the junior team in 2020 and made it on the team for the next 3 years in 2021, 2022, and 2023. So that is 1 year of being in dev and 3 years of being in the main team. So quite a long while. So you have the capacity to match that, not to surpass it, but just to match that. And how do you feel about your ability to use the next 3 years to propel yourself?
Oh, like I said, I always set my expectations lower. So going into selections, I'm like, can I even I don't know if they call it breaking in selections, but my concern is just like fixated on that. But let's just say I'm super lucky and can like get into main team or like continue my debating career in the high school scene. I I would hope to at least like I'll train continuously, because definitely after SPM, like I'm just gonna if I get into main team, I'll just commit fully to like debate training. It sounds a bit sad. I'll do stuff on the side as well, like fun stuff. But I'm someone who, when I really like something, I'll just push away like other stuff that is somewhat okay, and I'll just focus completely on that. And I'll find the weirdest ways to do that one thing. For studying, I have like a very elaborate digital like system for like memorizing stuff. For debate, it'll be super fun to explore different ways to improve. But my hope is, if I can be in the high school scene for that amount of time, at least to one, make speeches that I'm proud of, because at a certain point, like the more I see speeches of other people and the speeches of myself, especially speeches of like dinos or like old people within the debate scene, I'm starting to appreciate nice speeches, like, and the way they sound. Even if it doesn't win me the round, I think just having a nice speech is fulfilling enough. Especially if like, there's a debate video about it and then people can rewatch that. And it's not one of the other bad debate videos that are with me inside of it that are out there right now. So that's definitely one thing, one way I hope to match the expectations, or yeah, match it. Another way is breaking in WSDC. That would be amazing as well. I won't comment on the current
Okay.
progress of, yeah, but yeah, generally, yeah.
So it's good that you mentioned that you appreciate nice speeches, because one of the things, Arjun Gunalan is known for is nice speeches, as in people appreciate his style. And in the run up to Vietnam in 2023, people were talking about him being one of the stronger first speakers in the participant pool. So that is one of his strengths. I'll also note that, again, when we're discussing, it's also him as a debater, but also more about him as a person and as a captain. So how do you view yourself on that side of things, aside from just pure firepower in debate? Do you think you've done a good job as a captain of this dev team?
So I think one similar trait that I and Arjun do share in terms of like doing our captain stuff is I remember him being very efficient whenever he's coaching us or whenever he's doing something. Putting the sassiness to the side first. I haven't reached that level yet. I'm getting a bit close, but his sassiness to us is something else. Sorry, Arjun. But in other terms, in other terms, I think so far, we've been not the most like, I haven't been focusing too much on fun. Like some of my dev teammates, they really want to like play games and stuff. And there has been like really good periods in our dev where we played GeoGuessr until 2 a.m. Or like weird word games. And then there was also that a point recently actually where we reached level 60 on Discord, Overcooked or whatever it's called. That was a huge achievement.
Yeah.
And it involved like 6 people or something like that. So that part has been, I feel like I haven't emphasized that part enough, especially like bonding each other. But I think I've hopefully done an okay job at ensuring that we always have something to do, and like setting up spars, especially recently because selections is coming up. so we set up a lot of spas, and some of you might know there's like a server called Arjun Jaya Spa Club. I want to clarify here actually that I did not create that
Okay.
server and name it after myself, and I didn't add my own profile picture to that server. That seems very
I'm gonna put the picture
yeah.
there on those. Yeah.
That's a very bad picture also. I think it was Ethan Lee. Yeah, it was Ethan Lee who created the server because we sparred together one day and it was a good spot, and then we wanted to continue it. And then I think the thoughts at the time was, okay, let's make the next Blahaj server or something like that. Something their era I was familiar with. And I was like, okay, you guys can just create the server. Then we decided, what should we name it? I had no hand in this. Ethan just said, first it was going to be called like Arjun Jaya Cult Worship or something. And then Andrew had to moderate him, and I was just Arjun Jaya Spark Club server. It's kind of dying now, but at least within that server, we have done more spas and all that. And hopefully we can revive it before selections or do more spas in that server for selections. That profile picture is horrible, by the way. I would not have agreed to it.
So you and Ethan seem quite close. Obviously with hosting the previous podcast and going to quite a few tournaments together. However, some people are trying to find a burning answer, well, actually more of an answer to a burning question. Why did you lose the semi-finals of Malaya Inter-School?
Okay. Honestly, I think the burden is more on him to explain why. But my answer, actually, there's a lot of juicy stuff that happened during that semi-finals round. Some things I can't say. It probably safe, not for safety, but for his concern. But I think what generally happened was going into the round we were quite like happy because it was a pretty standard motion, and I was like, okay, let's do this. And then Ethan said, okay, actually, I have the case for this. Like, because I think they prepped the case before in another round. So he just, okay, I have all the arguments in my head already. And then we sat in the corner of the hall, and then he just fed the case to first speaker and then thought of all the stuff. But in that hyperfixation on that prep case, he forgot to actually prep the motion. So we only focused our entire case on one very specific argument that we were clearly losing on, which was, I think, whether the AI would be biased or not. After that is the most annoying round of my debate career, actually. Our opponents were really good. It was MCKK, and I think it was Adam Shami, and others who were part of DEF before. And they were really good debaters as well. We narrowly beat them in the prelims, and it was really fun to debate against them. But going into that round, that is the most annoying round because after that round, there was just like one very easy argument that like we could have easily run, and the judges made sure to make that very clear to us walking out of the debate room. It was just efficiency. The motion was something about AI being used in court systems, and we were arguing for the use of AI. The debate devolved into a whether AI would be biased or not kind of debate. And as a whip speaker, I was like, as a whip speaker, I did bring up the efficiency thing at the last minute, but then I thought there's no way we could win on this anymore because we didn't make it the main point of our case. So I just brought it up as like a last shot, and then the judges did not buy it. And also with the judges, originally it was a 3-2 in our favor. And then one of the judges convinced another judge to vote against this. And that was also adding to the...
That isn't allowed in the format, but okay, thanks for sharing that.
Oh, okay.
It is Asian parliamentary, it's ballot voting, but okay, we're gonna find out what happened there later.
Sorry,
go on.
sorry preemptively to those judges. I hope the tabs disappear or something. But yeah, I think so. One judge converted, and then it was a 3-2 against us, and then added to the wounds. I was still a bit okay after that round. I was like, okay, let's just watch the finals or something. Ethan Lee was more depressed than I was. He was lying on the floor playing Super Auto Pets, something like that. Boycotting the finals, which he did end up watching. And we were happy that MCK did win the finals because they generally were a good team. But yeah, the background to that loss was that hyperfixation on that very obscure prep case.
Well, to be fair, it is one of the bigger arguments, and opposition is right to, make that the winning clash, because obviously that's the part of the debate that they can win. And thus, if it becomes the determining clash, it's strategic for them. So I wouldn't say it's fully the fault of the gov, but yeah, efficiency is a pretty straightforward argument. So as long as you live and learn, better to make that mistake now than in the actual WSDC. Okay, so this obviously wasn't you guys' final team up. As you mentioned, you had K-Yap as well. So why did Ethan Lee out-tab you and K-Yap?
Oh my god. That I was happy with the results regardless. And I was like, okay. Oh no, first, okay, during the announcement of top 10 speakers, I think Ethan Lee had lower expectations than me, which was surprising, considering me and considering Ethan Lee, who always has high expectations for himself. Sorry, Ethan Lee. But so going into that, and then so it was funny also because like leading up to that, like everyone watched our rounds, people we've gone up against before. And then the funniest moment, I don't know if I can say this, but the funniest moment was after semis, I think, one of the newer debaters in the scene like just approached us and said, "You guys are so amazing at debate." And then she pointed at me, "I can tell you're a national team debater." And then and then she looked at Ethan Lee. And then when Ethan Lee said, "Hey, wait, I am a national team debater. He's the deaf squad debater." And then she said, "Oh, really? I didn't know." And I just fell on the floor.
This is definitely going on, by the way. Yeah. That's a funny story.
But then, so yeah, during the break ceremony, as the speakers, as they like announced, okay, top 5, top 4, like we were just both saying, okay, let's just hope we both get a tie because we tied in MIDC as well, and then we're hoping, let's just both get a tie. And then he got OBS, I got a second. I was still okay, like, okay, good job, but we did it, we won at least. And then the whole car ride back, he made sure to make it clear that he got OBS, and then he showed the trophy and all that to me. Yeah. I think so that was the experience of getting of that tournament. On a practical level, I the semis rounds were a bit weird because like, it was really new teams, and then it was some really good teams in round 3 and round 4. So round 4 I did my best, but I usually start off debate tournament slow. I don't know why this always happens, but I start off debate tournament slow, and he did quite well in round 1 and round 2 as well. But I definitely, you can't verify this, but I definitely carried in semis and quads. Just for everyone. Sorry, Ethan.
So let's talk a little bit more about that final. I do not know this piece of information. So who was the final's best speaker?
So it was him also on a 3-2-2.
Okay, who were the two? Were they
So-
to you or to the other team?
3 to him, 2 to me, and then 2 to the third speaker of Sunway.
Okay, let's talk a little bit more about that Sunway team. Because what we are shown here is that this was a 4-3 split. So could you explain what went down in the debate and why did it become so close?
Yeah, so that was also like an annoying finals. It was a good quality debate, and I don't think we were on our best because I think the biggest strategic flaw we made in that round was like getting Sunway get away with the narrative of the debate. Because as a third speaker, I had the mindset going in that I should always take the best cases or like debate on their best case and work within their framing. But looking back at the round, we probably already won the first speaker contention case-wise. Like our case had more substantive leverage over theirs. But as the debate went down, they used more like isn't rhetorical dumping, but they just tried to paint a very specific narrative on the worst case of our side. I think the motion was something about parents and I forgot the exact term that was used in motion.
So filial
Yeah.
piety. This house believes that filial piety has negatively impacted familial relationships in modern society.
Yep. So as they debated more, they started painting the worst case for our side. So it's like, okay, sure, filial piety is good, but if your family is like this, then very bad lah. And then Malcolm, second speaker on Sunday, he also came out and gave a Kevin Day type speech where it was just opening line extended to 7 minutes. And then I was super confused at the end because first speaker gave a very different case, second speaker gave a whole new case. So I was like, okay, maybe this is what they're trying to do. Let me just continue to be like straightforward because at that time I didn't know, I didn't really apply the stylistic finals type of thing which I learned that you should aim for in a finals. So I just continued, okay, let's just do like the standard stuff.
Well, for Arjun Gunalan, it's every round. So, do your best every round.
I'll aim for that. But yeah, so I just continued working within their worst case. And then at the end of that, like we let them get away with painting a lot of dire pictures about our side. And then what didn't help is that when I got onto the podium, it was a very dark stage, and I'm very reliant on like seeing my notes to at least get a cue to look up. And this for this round in particular, it was a very messy one because the metric wasn't as obvious as other debates. It was you had to prove something about why this would lead to stronger relationships, not just about benefits in general. So I had a really specific spec knowledge section within my notes that I had to say well. And then like that part was like unreadable to me with the lighting and on that stage. So I fumbled that
Spec
like so
knowledge
much.
about family. Isn't that just personal experience?
Uh
Family, right? You can't have specialized knowledge. It just depends on what your family is, right?
no, no, I remember for that one, it was like a very specific, it was some very nerdy mechanism on how even if their mechanism, their points are true, there's this one specific way that flips all of it. It was so hard to explain. And then people could see my frustration trying to read out my notes on the stage, trying to explain that like very complex part. I don't think it worked at all. So that part was a complete waste of a golden opportunity. I blame it on KYAP lights. But KYAP was a good tournament. Thank you, Divesh. But I blame it on those lights. And then the later parts of my speech, I think my speech did win over one judge. I think because he approached me after the thing and said, your speech did good. I gave you my vote for FPS. So yeah. And then but from what I learned from other feedback, our side didn't really our side let them get away with too much.
Yeah, so I think the interesting thing about this motion is I thought, oh damn, it should be a slam dunk win for Op. Not because like your team is Op, just based on the motion itself. I think it's just way easier to approach the Op. For the reason that, say, I don't know what happens in the debate, but if the claim is that filial piety has some harms, the burden of Op is not to prove that the harms don't exist, but it's just to prove that if filial piety didn't exist, the world would just be worse for familial relationships. Because the avoidance of harm is itself a benefit, right? So if filial piety is what brought some families together, it doesn't matter if the families are imperfect. It's just that the families exist. And in a world where filial piety didn't exist, the families wouldn't exist because there will be no culture that brings them together. But okay, that's a pretty straightforward burden for all. I don't know if that's ended up what happening in the debate, but yeah, something to keep in mind about more harm than good motions for all those who are watching also. Like burdens, especially in today's context, there are many ways that burdens end up becoming important. So you do want to take a look at that. Okay, we've been here for quite a while. So do you have any parting words that you would like people to know?
Okay, there's one message, parting note that I want to like carry forward into the open debate scene. This is something my coach talks about a lot in the Pahang. So I got coached for Wira Pahang by someone who's very old in the debate scene, and he just like coaches. He's been very passionate about debate in that context, even though it's Pahang, even though there's like still teachers as judges and there's very limited debaters coming up also, he's still very passionate about the scene and keeps Pahang Wira at least not as annoying as other state Wiras. Like we can still do somewhat open speech types in Pahang. And one thing he wanted to emphasize within the debate scene is that Wira is oftentimes like the only like Wira is carrying the debate scene in Malaysia, especially for rural areas. Like KL has MIDP, and Selangor has MIDP, and generally for international schools and private schools, that is the pipeline you go into. But for a bunch of other states, Wira is the only way you find out about this open scene. So one thing I hope, like, I don't know why I'm going on a monologue about hope and all, but one thing I hope that we can integrate into the debate scene is more consideration and care for Wira debaters. Like we do like to look at them as people who say good morning in the start of their speeches. And I mean that part is tragic also, but I think the Wira is improving as well. Like for the finals in this year and last year, it has been very similar to the open styles that a lot of open debaters enjoy. And I think more focus and like regard for Wira and hosting more tournaments catering to the SMK, what is SMK in English? The like government high school
Public
debaters.
schools, yeah.
Public school debaters would definitely benefit the debate scene because, as you say, it is on like a somewhat decline right now, right? And the pool is quite scarce. I think one thing that we need to do to make it at least somewhat to what it was before, where all the pro debaters in the Malaysian scene, is to have more grassroots upgrading of our debate integration. I think some organizations are doing this quite well. I'd like to mention a few. I think it's Project Wira or Debate lah. One of those names. And they have come to my state and done a workshop recently as well. So good on them for trying to increase the quality of the scene that way. But yeah, generally that's all I have.
I absolutely agree. I think it is memed, unfortunately. I think what I personally oppose is people becoming too egoistic just because they have a win in Wira, and then they use that to say that, oh, I'm better than everyone else, which is obviously not true. Like, obviously you're good, but it's not that alone in the world. But you are right in that there should not be a premium automatically placed on other formats because people may not have exposure to those formats. So that is an initiative which obviously Team Malaysia is doing as well, which is why when we reduced registration fees for the WSDC Nationals that happened last weekend, we saw record high participation from schools. I think the number of teams participating compared to previous years almost doubled because there were so many more teams doing this. So absolutely agree. And yeah, if you're using this platform for good, that's already a sign of captaincy that is in a positive trend. So anyways, yeah, we'll do some edits there at the end. That this will not be the only thing. I'll also be giving my own opinions just to flag. But yeah, so we will see you at selections.